For 4 decades, Catch One was a legendary Los Angeles nightclub. It was an institution where celebrities, politicians, and everyday people of all colors, cultures, and backgrounds converged. The Catch came to be known as the unofficial Studio 54 of the West Coast.
The bangingest music. You came here prepared to dance.
I've danced in this club in jock straps with cowboy boots.
I would go in there and dance, and everyone would leave me alone.
It's a fat club and it's a fat neighborhood.
Catch was created to fulfill a need. At the time that we opened, mid-1970s, there was still an abundance of racism. The Catch offered a place where any and everybody could come.
We've encountered a lot of racism in our days, you know. They throw things at us.
I'm Jewel Williams. I wear lots and lots of hats.
She started off with 4 strikes. Not only was she poor, not only was she a woman, she was a lesbian, and on top of that, a black woman.
If we could find everybody that she's inspired, they would be lined up for blocks and blocks and blocks across the city.
The 4 businesses operated under the Village Health Foundation are the Village Health Clinic, the Vegan Village Internet Cafe, the Village Manor, and the Catch One nightclub. And the special part is that no one is turned away.
You had people who wouldn't touch people with AIDS. They wouldn't go to your club if there was AIDS-related people in there.
Young men in the backyard of the Catch One, some were ill, didn't know where they were going to sleep. Jewel was the person who was trying to take care of all of them, giving them a place to come.
The cops coming into my place night after night with their rifles and things drawn. I said, when are you guys going to stop harassing me?
Their whole point was to instill fear and intimidation against the gay community, and especially the black gay community.
Jewel's much more an icon and a hero than any celebrity.
What are you going to do next, Jewel?
The Catch offered a place where any and everybody could come. The guys used to talk always about going out and catching one. That meant that they were going to go out on the prowl and try to pick somebody up, and that's how the name Catch One came into being. The Catch was important because at the time that we opened, there was still an abundance of racism.
They tried to burn her out when they tried to buy her out, but Jewel is my hero.
Not only was she poor, not only was she a woman, she was a lesbian, and on top of that, a black woman.
People of different lifestyles were actually ordinances against activities of same-sex dancing or dressing in transgender clothes.
The Catch One became a haven.
Everyone is welcome to the biggest gay club on the West Coast, because it's the best coast.
Eventually, the celebrities came, and the money came, and fame came.
It's a fat club and it's a fat neighborhood.
The early 1990s brought in people like Madonna and Sharon Stone, and became an underground place.
It was great music, and it was packed.
The bangingest music, the most free-spirited people. You came here prepared to dance.
There's such an eclectic group of people that come to this club. Men, women, black, white, all nationalities.
When folks call and ask me what kind of club it is, and when it comes to sexuality, it's for gays, lesbians, bis, tris, and otherwise.
Greetings and good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tonda Cesare Shimaringa, and this is Rootwork here on Black Liberation Media. So good. So glad to have y'all with us tonight. Glad to be doing this show. This is not an official tribute, an official commemoration, but I wanted to make a statement about the impact of Jewel Thais, Williams, the impact she had on Black Los Angeles. And so I wanted to put something together, and I've done that with an impressive panel of guests that I'm going to bring up in a minute. But real quick, I want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like the video now, in case you hear something later on and get mad about it. So you don't forget, like it now. Share this link and subscribe to Rootwork. Subscribe to Black Liberation Media, just in case you haven't already subscribed. Share it with folks. Share the link with folks who have not subscribed and who are not familiar with the work that Black Liberation Media does. Again, my name is Tonda Cesare Shimaringa, and this is Rootwork here on Black Liberation Media. Jewel Thais Williams passed away last Monday, July 7th, here in Los Angeles. She was 86 years old. Many of the tributes and the descriptions of her, the coverage on her, describe her as a trailblazing icon, a pioneer, et cetera, and so on. And I thought it was important that people know and understand why she is referred to as such, why many of us here in Los Angeles are in mourning and feel such a tremendous loss. Yes, to Los Angeles, but to the Black Los Angeles community in particular, the Black queer and the Black cis hetero straight community. The Black LA community is in mourning, and we have suffered a tremendous loss. So again, I've got a panel of folks assembled that I want to bring in here, just checking in real quick. Greetings to all who have tuned in, and greetings to you who will tune in later. Comrade in North Carolina, yeah, Jewel was known all over, pretty much all over. So I just shared some clips from a documentary, a film directed by a person named C. Fritz. It was distributed by Array, that's Ava DuVernay's company. It had been available on Netflix for a while. I can't seem to find it now, but I'm almost positive it's going to be brought back into distribution and circulation. It really ought to be, because of this tremendous loss. So keep your eyes out for Jewel's Catch One. It had been on Netflix. It is distributed by Array. Hopefully it will be brought back into circulation. Let me go ahead now and introduce to you all some of the people that we have assembled for today. At the moment, none of their information is available in the show description. It will be available later on. And of course, they're going to talk about themselves and who they are a little bit more as we get into the show. I'm also waiting on one guest, Jasmine Canick, who should be here later on today. But let's start with, at the top of the screen, this is EK Outlaw Sima Lee, who has been on the show before, a comrade from Baltimore, Maryland. How are you doing, Sima?
I'm fantastic. Can you hear me? Is my mic clear?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you so much for being on here today. At the bottom, we got Mark Anthony Clayton Johnson here in Los Angeles with me. Mark is the director of Dignity and Power Now, one of the organizations leading the charge to hold the sheriff's department accountable, get the sheriff's gangs out of the sheriff's department, closing down the Men's Central Jail, which is run by the sheriff's department, and one of the leading organizations out here fighting against the police/prison industrial complex. Mark, I know you're busy, so thank you so much for being here today. Take a time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to honor Jewel. I have since transitioned out of my role at DPN, but Jewel was such a formative piece of that, and I look forward to discussing her role.
And I'm not even sure what to say. I know you as Omo Ade. It just says Ade on here.
That's fine.
My brother Omo Ade, he is the proprietor of Ride On Bike Co-op in Leimert Park. but I know him and met him in one of his lives as a DJ, a connoisseur of house music. And as you can see, he's showing just a tiny bit of his record collection in the bag. Thank you, brother, for being on here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's I'm honored to be here, and it's good to see you, Mark.
It's good to see you, man. Pleasure always.
Yes.
Yeah, and if y'all don't know Sima, please get to know Sima. I believe in bringing folks together. So
Word,
yeah,
for sure.
you know Sima out in Baltimore. It's all good. It's all family. We all love. So I thought I would start with Music and Jewels Club. I never set foot in the club as a club.
Oh.
I found out about Jewel through acupuncture, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But Omo Ade, I've known you. It's okay if we tell our age.
Yeah.
Over 20 years. And I met you at the time I met you, you were patiently trying to introduce me to house music. And I was like, well, you ain't got no Dre, you ain't got no Warren G.
Yeah.
But eventually it paid off.
It took a while.
It took a while. I'm hard-headed. What can I say? I won't call myself a house music head, but I definitely have an appreciation for house music. Absolutely have an appreciation for house music. Many people know of Jewel by way of the club, especially outside of Los Angeles. I've heard people talk about the fact they would fly in or drive into LA just to go to this club.
Yeah.
And we saw some of the clips from the video. Celebrities found out about the club in mass at a particular point in time and would flock to the club.
Yeah.
We know it provided a safe space and a haven, but I wanted to ask you, as someone again who is definitely a house music, not only a head, but an aficionado, someone who has and continues to do DJing around the city, how important, not just to the city of LA, I believe that my priority is Black LA, but how important was Jewel's Catch One in your estimation?
Yeah, I think in my estimation it was extremely important. So for me, growing up on the East Coast from Boston, I moved out here in like late 86, 87. And of course, I wanted to find some place where I could enjoy my music that I love to dance to. I was dancing a lot back then. And
What was your music?
Well, the music was like, well, back
Now, what
then,
was your music?
my
That
music,
you
it
were
was
looking for.
club and dance music. That's what it was called before it became house, right? It was club music that was being played in the clubs. And so when I came to LA, I'm looking for it at this point. By now it's being called house music. And I remember going to Tower Records in Hollywood and asking for the house music section, and they just looked at me like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, yo, I'm in trouble. You all don't have a house music section. So, and I remember going through the LA Weekly trying to find a place to go dance. And Juice Catch One was one of those places. Now, I didn't know how important the space was to Los Angeles or to Black Los Angeles, right? All I knew was like, yo, this place is playing house music. I'm going. It's gay or not, I don't care. That's where the music is. That's where I'm going. Because when I was coming up, when we was going out to clubs in Boston, it was gay folks, trans, whatever it was. You went there for the music and for the good time and for the dancing, right? And so that's how I came up in the music. And so that's what I was looking forward to. And Jules Catch One was the only place really that was doing it on a consistent basis. And then other people promoters started doing parties, but they were mostly underground and warehouse parties and stuff like that. But Jules was just like a place that you could literally go and know you were gonna get some good music. And Billy Long, we gotta mention him because he was the DJ, the resident DJ at the spot. And I was working on a play at the Ebony Showcase Theater once. And after the play, people were like talking about going out. They was like, where you going? I was like, yo, I don't know if y'all want to go where I'm going, because I'm going to the Catch, right? Because it was a bunch of straight people that was working with me, right? So it was like, yo, we want to go. I was like, all right, look, it's a gay club. So if you want to go, know you're going to a gay club and you have to behave, you know? And so they was like, all right, yo, cool, we're gonna go. So, and we went, folks had a good time, and it was an interesting thing that happened too, right? One of the guys I was hanging out with, a woman came up to him and was like, yo, uh, somebody over there wants to talk to you. And it was like, who's that? It was another guy, right? And he was like, yo, I'm flattered, but I'm good. I was like, all right, good response. I think we're gonna be good because at least you know the decorum. It's like you're not gonna fly off the handle. You're not gonna get crazy because we're here for a good time. The music is good. Let's dance and have a good time. So that was the place for me when I came to LA that I really got to enjoy house music.
So the fact, well, as she talked about in the thing, it's for gays, bis, tris, and otherwise.
Right.
I just find it very, not, I guess, interesting, but also refreshing that so many people did not allow the homophobia, the transphobia, to deter them from seeking out being in quote unquote communion with house music and with the club.
Right. Yeah.
And again, because of you, it's because of you that I know the names Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles. Shout out to Lene Denise, who had also been schooling me all along, right? So
right.
You were gonna say?
Yeah, no, because that was the safe space, right? I think, you know, like coming from the East Coast, it was a safe space for them, and we were welcome to be in that space. You know, it's like none of that stuff that was going on within the society mattered once you were in that space. It was sacred space. It was space for music and dance and joy and liberation. You know, people dance freely, express themselves freely. And whether you're gay or not, when you see somebody being free, you got to appreciate that, respect that, and find your way to get there, you know, because that's what it's about. You know,
And you know what I'm going to bring up, right? I'm going to bring up that story that you told me. Was it which one? Paradise? Larry Levan. I think Larry Levan was Paradise, and Frankie
Paradise
Knuckles
Garage
was the garage or the warehouse.
No, Paradise Garage is the same thing. Frankie Knuckles was the warehouse. Yes.
Well, so you were telling me about you were at the. Okay, I've just forgotten. No, you just said it. Anyway, you were at the spot where Larry Levan was the DJ, and he was doing some set, and you saw a brother standing in front of the speakers with tears coming down his eyes.
Yeah.
And you asked him, what's up? He's like, Larry, man, Larry.
Yeah.
I think that it just tripped, right?
Yes, because he was one of those DJs that took you on a journey and told a story with the music that he played. How he played it, his programming was like impeccable, which is why people still call his name to this day, right? And so people get emotional. I know folks till this day that carry their membership card for the Paradise Garage. They'll pull it out their wallet, be like, yo, I was a member, you know? And when you start talking to them about their experience, they get chills, they get emotional, they tear up because it was such a special experience every time they went. You know, the Paradise Garage and the Catch One, places like that were very special because of how they made you feel in community with others.
In addition to the music that was being played. I want to use this as a segue because culture to me is very, very important. The seeds, I believe, of our liberation are to be found within our culture. One of the things I've noticed just as observing so many people's reactions to the film Sinners, it's like it opened up something for them and they don't know where it came from, but it's just opened up something for them. I was studying the Akan language several years ago, Shri, and one of the things that I learned was that the word for healing, Sa, is the same word for dance. And that dance is an intricate part of religion and ritual.
Yes.
And the
Amen.
fact that this club was so popular that Jewel Thais Williams was able to take the funds she acquired from that club and create the Village Health Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the history behind that, but I do know that she went to Emperor's College here in Los Angeles and became a licensed doctor of acupuncture. So I'm hoping that Sima and Mark Anthony can talk to us now, not only about the importance of Jewel, but the importance of acupuncture and healing and wellness in life in general, but also in terms of our movements for liberation and what that means for folks who are on the front lines fighting against oppression. Sima, if you'd like to go first.
Yes. Also, I'm a house head too, so yes,
Word
yes, and
up.
yes. Before I even segue into this health, yes, about the house, and disco, which is the godfather of house, and
Indeed.
they're celebrating now in Chicago, which is a weird milestone. How they destroyed the disco albums in the Chicago
Mm-hmm.
stadium. It was a racially motivated act because it was such a liberating act. It was a homophobic and transphobic act. They didn't want to see Black people, queer people, trans people getting the power that they were getting off of the music and the messages of love and acceptance.
Right.
So yes, Jewel absolutely is a hero to me, and I model some things after her example of taking the culture and the art and being able to utilize that to create not just safer spaces or spaces for us to be centered, but to actually organize. Um, Taking the funds from a club to have holistic healing, to have acupuncture, to open up vegan restaurants, and to talk about nutrition. And her partner even opened up Rue's House, which helped to house Black women and children, as we know, at a time that people were, people were ridiculously cruel, and it was very hard to find housing. It was children were not even allowed to come to school. If it was, it was just people don't really, now that we have prep and these things, and people don't really understand the significance of what society's wall against people was during the time of the early 80s, the early 90s, and Jules Space is an example of what you can do besides wring your hands. You could actually come up with plans. It also shows the significance of culture being more than just something to entertain us, but to be something that can sustain a movement. I've utilized that model myself with the organization that I helped found, Food Clothing Resistance Collective Maroon Movement. We had a space in Washington, D.C. Called Maroon House. And it was the very same model that Jewel had, except it was a house. But I mean, parties, events, it was a space for not just queer folks, but for the entire community to come together, a hub, if you will. And that is a Jewel Tice Women's, that is like the Star House. That is like so many other spaces that have come along. That is like traditional Black and queer, Black, queer, and trans houses in general. Places where you can get a meal, places where you can get information, places where you can be taken to your appointments and things of this nature. So I was inspired by Catch One, the modem of that, but also her documentary, how it broke it all down, how she pivoted to health. And it's something that inspired me to pivot more to health. Being mentored by Dr. Kokai Patterson, studying under him acupuncture detoxification, which was kind of brought to the attention of people through Dr. Batulu Shakur and the Leakin Detox Center and the Young Lords and the Panthers and White Lightning and all these other groups that came together, again, to do more than hand wrangle, but to deal with our health issues, because there is no real liberation when we're sick and our bodies are, dealing with this colonialism. So Yeah, I'm in Baltimore, but growing up in Virginia and working in DC and organizing through a model that I saw from a lesbian woman, Black lesbian, proud, strong, African centered with locks in Los Angeles. And I don't know how many more people she affected, but she most certainly affected me. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that aspect, especially the acupuncture detoxification and just acupuncture in general. um I think it's just a powerful medium to go against Western capitalist centered medical that is pushed on us, and being able to find alternatives to that. And I think that she was brilliant to be able to take those funds and to do that. And just a visionary, because there weren't a lot of models of that. So she kind of was just breaking down doors and creating them on her own. And yeah, that's just the African way.
And just as a side note, Jewel passed on July 7th of this year. 2 years ago, on July 6th, is the date that Dr. Mutulu Shakur passed away, one of the mentors and trainers of your mentor and trainer, Dr. Kokayi Patterson. And when we say that she used the funds from the nightclub to fund the acupuncture and wellness clinic, I am a firsthand witness. At the time I started going there, maybe 2006-ish, 2005, the acupuncture treatments were free. Free.
Yeah.
Free. Did I mention free?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the acupuncture sessions. I'm talking about the herbs, the tinctures, the extracts that may have been prescribed to go with as part of your regimen. Or how can I say this with emphasis? All of that shit was free. As in, you get your treatment, they load you up with herbs, you walk towards the door and you turn back. Y'all ain't gonna call the police on me, right? If I walk out of here with this stuff, right? And the receptionist night, no, will you please go so I can deal with these other? I told you it's free. You sure? Yes. How may I help you? And at some point, it became sliding scale. And at another point, they began to get insurance reimbursements. But for much of its existence, the Village Health Foundation was free. And I don't know how many other folks are doing that currently, but we most definitely need more of that.
It's Mark
Anthony. Okay, but you got a club with Sharon Stone and Madonna coming through, you can do that, right? Mark Anthony. Again, Dignity and Power Now. I know you've transitioned out, but that's where I met you. So much of the work that you all have done, people might not know, but your health and wellness component has always been forefront and hand in hand with your works to confront the sheriffs and violence and police in our communities and incarceration in our communities. Can you talk to our audience about why that is and where Jewel figures in that scenario?
Absolutely. I mean, this is such a powerful and important conversation. There's so much history about what Catch One and what the Village Health Foundation represent. And for me, I think when I think about Jewel, I think about how critical she is as a Black queer institution builder and as a prophetic healer. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means. In 2011 is when my good friend Patrice Cullors brought a few of us together to talk about how we could take on the sheriff's department in Los Angeles County. And it was a very critical opening where there was massive exposure of violence and brutality. They called it hyperviolence in the jails against folks who were incarcerated by the sheriff's department. And no one was organizing families. No one was organizing folks who were inside and their loved ones and survivors to really think about what those solutions were. And we come from the tradition of organizing. It says those most impacted need to be skilled, trained up, leading these fights. And so the question becomes, how do you do that when the harm and violence they've experienced is debilitating, traumatizing, and impacts our nervous systems in such a way that even being in the same room as someone with a badge will give you insomnia and flashbacks for weeks. Like, how do you do that? And so we actually, the same people who helped me, who we got together, and we were thinking about how do we build an institution that forwards health and wellness as a power building strategy. Those same people, Black women, Black queer women, Black gender nonconforming people, as we're grappling with these questions, were the same folks who were saying, hey, Mark Anthony, like, you need to go talk to Village Health Foundation. Because at the time I was at Yosan University and I was studying Chinese medicine. And when I graduated and got licensed, they were like, you need to talk to Jewel. You need to talk about how these things work together. And it was game changing for me. I knew of the catch, but didn't go to the catch. I had seen Village Health Foundation. I lived in St. Elmo Village, like less than a mile away. And going in there and seeing the institution itself, coming through the clinic door and seeing the herbal and, the cabinets filled with raw herbs and herbal formulas. I'm like, this woman is serious and she knows her stuff. And to be met with such power, grace, and generosity with her time, Julie eventually gave me space in the clinic to treat patients. And I will never forget that, because I think it really speaks to the type of institution builder that she is. She's not just building things for us to enjoy and benefit from, but for us to skill up in various ways. And so, I think when I think about her, I think about certainly that. And on this piece of her being a prophetic healer, we used to have at the Village Health Foundation these seasonal wellness fairs, if you will, where she would invite people to come, speak, talk, and the community would come, not just listen, but whatever modality that the speaker came with, we would actually participate in, And so if she had someone there talking about the benefits of Tai Chi, we would be doing Tai Chi. She would invite me every season to come talk about, what were the Chinese medicine principles of the season. And then people would get acupuncture. And for me, what's so incredible about Jewel is that, to be an effective healer, you can't just have the technical skills. You can't just have the ability. You actually have to believe it works. And for Black folks to engage in the type of healing we must be committed to, the type of belief and faith we have to have in our own wellness, given what we're up against, has to be extremely fortified. And she would often tell the story of her mother and how she healed cancer, with basically food, and she would teach people how to read the labels and like, how do you get organic food and do all those things. And there is something about Jewel that imbued in me a belief that there is not a dis-ease and imbalance or a confrontation with a challenge to our health that we can't overcome. Whether we have access, the resources, the political power to achieve that is a different and intersecting question, but can we? Absolutely. And Jewel is a testament to that. Not just because of her clinic, but because of her practice, because of her living testimony, because of her mother, because of all these things. And so, that very much for us became part of the prophetic constellation of why we incorporated health and wellness into Dignity and Power now, because many of us have seen these other institutions like what Jewel built that were so critical to the type of power we needed. And that shaped me in a very deep and profound way. And to this day, I fundamentally believe Black well-being is certainly possible. And it's because of her smile. It's because of her generosity. It's because of what she built and how she did it. you know, how much of a community building and connector she was because of it. And I would also just say, you know, lastly to this point is that she was incredibly studious too. You know, I would go to the back of the clinic and there would just be books, books upon books upon books. And in between patients, I would sit there and read and just be, you know, absorbing. And so there's a level of rigor that she brought to the well-being practice that I will never forget and very much hold a standard around. Yeah, incredible, incredible. And I think her legacy deserves knowing about her as a wellness practitioner and the prophetic nature of it.
The prophetic nature. Jewel was a prophet. Jewel was a prophet. Is that what you're saying, bro?
I'm saying it. I'm saying it. I'm saying that the ways in which she made our well-being possible continues to live on.
Ade, did you want to jump in real quick?
No, I think just the fact that she opened up the clinic, I think, was just a natural progression to what the club was offering. You know, so often when you hear people talk about their experiences, whether it's at the Catch or the Paradise or the Warehouse, they talk about it being like church. They talk about the release, the freedom, the healing that happens when they are in those spaces and experience the music. So opening up a clinic right next to the club isn't, I don't see it as a stretch at all. I think I see it as like a natural progression for the type of person and the type of work that she saw that needed to be done in the community.
I see Sima bouncing your head a lot. You're on mute.
I'm a head shaker. I'm always nodding and agreeing and I'm from the South. Sorry. So, you know, yeah, I'm just thinking about how the time that she decided that she would start on this journey, women weren't even allowed to be bartenders. I'm
Right.
gonna say that again because, you know, for
Right.
people who are younger and don't really understand what that looked like back then, she wasn't even allowed to be a bartender.
Word.
Yeah.
And she had to finesse a little bit. I heard her tell her story about how she stretched the time out a little bit so she could have a little bit more time, but she was determined. I think she stretched it from 30 days to 60, but it didn't matter. Like this woman in 70 something, you know, 73 came up with that type of money to be able to purchase not just the bar, but the whole, you know, and then to expand. It's just, yeah, it's unheard of. And the documentary, like you said, it was on Netflix. I would love to see it come back or to some other, you know, app. Screenings. I would love for there to be screenings happening, so that people can learn more about this work that she did, this legacy that she left. Again, here in Baltimore, I'm thinking about what that looks like, since we're going back and things are being reversed across the country, in particular, in an area where Jewel was, you know, very heavily involved in, and that's the people who are living with HIV and AIDS. It's very heartbreaking to see the clock go back in time. And it's very interesting that this is when Jewel decided to become our ancestor, right? Because I'm determined to say, she was like, all right, y'all need me up there to send some stuff down to get you some rules. And so we taking you know, this, she being a general as ever. And so what a powerful ancestor to have when they're trying to reverse all that work, all that organizing, all those late nights of a lot of women who were taking care of men when their families had kicked them out and weren't showing them love. And we're going to have to go back to the meals, cooking for each other. We're going to have to go back to, I just think about the touch that you get with acupuncture and how caring and how compassionate and how loving you have to be to do that work. And we're going to have to start pouring into people who have lost their Medicaid, lost their Medicare, lost their food stamps. Like everything that Jules set up, or Dr. Talbot Small, or Dr. Matsulu, or a Nahanda, or, you know, I'm naming people who have done this healing acupuncture work, Black people who don't get talked enough about. but or Dr. Kokai, like I said, in DC, who's dealing with his own health issues. We're going to have to go back to that. We're going to have to go back to, I know people might shrug a bit, but eating to live. Sorry for those of you who are upset, but we're going to have to go back to eating to live and those remedies that come through our food. And as we're being attacked by policy, we're going to have to strengthen our communities. And I always said, whether it was with Maroon Movement or anyone, you know, a plate of food goes a long way. A conversation, a hey, how you doing, goes a long way. And for me, these seeds and needles and these 5 points in the air, if it was good enough for the folks in Lincoln Detox and those comrades who did so much beautiful work in Bronx and Harlem, and now it's all over the world, then it's good enough for me. And I would love to be an acupuncturist like Jewel. It's a bit costly, so I got to figure it out because I don't have a nightclub to, to fund it. But it's a goal so that we can handle what we need to handle. We just had a mass overdose here in Baltimore.
I heard that. And
this is a very Black city. And it gets a lot of flack from people up high, right? The type of unity that is in Baltimore, though, is a beautiful thing. It's just like a Black LA or a Black Boston or a Black Philly or a Black Chicago. And we all need the same thing. We all need love, tenderness, compassion, and a way to connect our communities together. And I think we'll do that through culture. And again, there is no revolution without our health. So I plan on keep teaching the lessons of Jewel and others so that it can inspire the youth, so to let them know there are other options out there beyond just this awful medical system that we have that's often predatory upon us. So,
and I want to, I also want to say that, you know, the thing about alternative modes of healing, alternative medicine, Chinese and traditional medicine, etc., it's not just a rebuke to capitalism and the profit-driven nature of that medical system. We're talking about a different way of being and living in the world. And for me personally, a way that gets results. I don't like needles, primarily because I don't do pain. But when I tell you that I swear by acupuncture, when I tell you the number of people who I told about, those who didn't know about you, and I told them about acupuncture, and they got acupuncture, and now they swear by acupuncture. Those of you listening, watching at home, and those of you who come in later, if you've never tried acupuncture, you should try it at least once. Let me say that from my personal experience, I can't talk for everybody, but from my personal experience, there have been times where that which was ailing me, that part of my body where I had the ailment, the needles were not necessarily stuck in that particular location.
Right.
There have been one or two times where that is where the pain came from, that they literally stuck the needle in the part of my body where I was experiencing pain. And okay, that hurt. Other than that, it rarely does not hurt. It rarely hurts. And the results are, there's no other way for you to understand it unless you actually go through it. Speaking of, real quick, I need to, we've got a new guest in here that I want to get on real quick because I know all of y'all are busy. I appreciate every last one of you, but Jasmine can be real busy. And I had to ask Jasmine to come on the show to talk about the relevance of Jewel to politics in Black Los Angeles and in Los Angeles. We could not have this discussion. You know, I'm geeked over the whole wellness and acupuncture. But Jasmine, thank you so much for taking time and being on the show today. We've talked about house music. We've talked about healing. We talked about wellness. We talked about acupuncture. What has Black LA in particular lost with now the passing of Jewel Thais Williams?
Well, first, hi, everyone. I see some familiar faces on here. Thank you so much for even having this conversation. Look, you know, Jewel understood the importance of having a space to shake it off, to dance, to be free, to be able to be all of who you are, in a space where you could be safe and to also catch one and to, you know, to date freely and to just have that space. And for folks who are from LA and let's just say over 35, 40 years old, they remember how unwelcoming West Hollywood was to people who are our color. Whether you were gay or not, it didn't matter. You were Black. And so having a space like the Catch One, where you could be Black and lesbian, Black and gay, Black and trans, Black and queer was very, very significant and important and still is. But what Jewel also understood was that you have the folks who make ways for the party, and then you have folks who are fighting the fight for our folks to be around a party, right? So she, you know, I always tell people that before there were corporate sponsors, there were people like Jewel Thais Williams who was funding the movement, who was giving space to the movement, allowing us to organize in that space, allowing us to plan protests in that space, allowing us to have political fundraisers in that space, raising money for candidates that supported us. Oh, the list goes on and on and on, because all of these things are very important. And as I'm sure you detailed earlier, it wasn't just about the Catch One. She really did care about us totally and completely. Most importantly, our health, right? In addition to the Village Health Clinic, you know, her and her wife had Rue's House. Then there was also the Dignity House that they supported with Minority AIDS Project. And so her work around politics was equally as powerful for me, because like I said, whether it was donating to a campaign, saying, yeah, you can use this space for a fundraiser, or yeah, you can use this space to have a forum so that we can talk about the important issues, she made that space available. Obviously, since she's passed, there have been like all these conversations in different circles about one's personal history with Jewel. And, you know, I just kind of smile and say, because, you know, I was not into the clubs. Now, it's true, the Catch, my story is the same as most other people's. It was the first club I snuck into underage. That is very actually true. But I wasn't really, even in my 20s, like I was too nervous, too shy. I wasn't that much of a club person. So I got to know Jewel through my work in politics. And then, of course, her looking after my health, teaching me about Chinese herbs and acupuncture and everything. But I really respect the work that she did, particularly around HIV and AIDS, the Black Gay and Lesbian Leadership Forum, Minority AIDS Project, anything I came to her with. You know, she was like, what do I need to do? You need money, you need a place. What do I need to do? And so I just really appreciate that in her, because those are the types of leaders that leave a legacy behind. We got a lot of folks walking around here calling themselves leaders. They look behind, there's no one there. They're not leaving anything behind. Jewel actually left a legacy behind. She is one of a handful of Black women in the city of Los Angeles to have her name on a square outside of that establishment. That's something I'm happy I was able to work on before Herb left office.
Urban Western, the councilman of that area.
Western Council District 10. And look, you know, we get a lot of lip service as Black people and Black women in this city, but there are very few people that have a square in their name. I think Brenda Marsh Mitchell is one, Jewel is another, and I think there's another in Vermont Square in CD8. It's also equally unusual for that square to be dedicated while the person is still alive. And I'm so happy that we were able to celebrate with Jewel and Rue together, that she was actually alive to see her name go up on a street in Los Angeles. And I think that was very special and also very indicative of sort of the power that she had and respect that she had within the city of Los Angeles, namely the city council.
Jewel struck me as a very humble person, to the point that once I began to learn, okay, let me just, for be transparency's sake, I'm a journalist. As you know, journalists have particular beats. If it wasn't my beat, I don't always have the bandwidth to take it in. If it's part of my beat, if it's part of what I'm interested in, other than that, I don't always have bandwidth for everything. When I tell you, I should be ashamed of this, but hey, anyway, it was not until Jewel passed last week that I found out she was a co-founder of the Minority AIDS Project.
Oh, wow.
Not to throw any shade. All I've ever heard of is Reverend Carl Bean and Minority AIDS Project. That's all I've ever heard. That's all I've ever seen. Shout out, great legacy. Not trying to tarnish him at all. I never knew she was a co-founder. She never, I don't know if she ever, who did she tell that she was if you were there, then you knew. I never heard her talk about it. So what else has she done that she did not talk about? That you only knew?
Probably a lot. I know. I told this story to the New York Times over the weekend, and I'm sure they probably gonna end up using it. If it wasn't for Jewel, I probably wouldn't have talked to the New York Times. But you know, you try to help people get it right. You try.
Right.
Exactly. You deal with mainstream media and something so sensitive. But I told this story to the reporter about how when I was in my 20s, I was just getting started in politics. I might have been working in Congress or the state legislature. I can't remember. But the bottom line was there was a point in the early 2000s, you may remember this, when we didn't pass a budget. And as employees, we went quite a long time without getting paid because that's how it works. And we still had to show up for work every single day. And I remember Jewel knew I was struggling. Again, I'm young. I am not this, mature Jasmine before you, right? So I'm not like the greatest with my money back then. I'm, robbing Peter to pay Paul and doing, I'm doing young people stuff. And she said, come to the catch. I went to the catch. She handed me a paper bag full of $100 bills. She did. She told me to pay my rent. I don't know who told her what was going on with me. I don't know how she knew, but she did. She gave me that money, didn't want it back. She said, you do so much for the community. Let me do something for you. And, she helped me pay my rent. And I really, really appreciate that. I imagine there are many, many people in our community who have stories like that. She didn't toot her horn about it. It was between you and her. She employed a lot of people in our community as well. She was just a phenomenal person who, as you mentioned, was extremely humble. She really, really was. And if you didn't know, it's not hard to believe that folks didn't know that she was a co-founder of Minority AIDS Project, because that wasn't like really her thing, like always talking about what I did. We got some folks in these streets and that's all they do. But she was not one of them. And, and don't feel bad about that. I sat in a meeting, I'm the organizer for South Los Angeles Pride, and I sat in a meeting to sort of ground folks last week after she passed and realized that more than half of the room was under 30. So I just took a gander and said, hey, how many of y'all know who Jewel was? I didn't know who Jewel was. Hands flew up. How many of y'all had never been to the catch? Hands flew up. I was like, And there were even some folks who were older who had never seen Jewel until they saw her on the news with the passing, saw her on television with her passing. So it is quite possible, I don't know how, but it is quite possible to not have known who Jewel was if you weren't in that sort of orbit, where all of those things were going on. But yeah, just an incredible woman. There will never be another one like her. And, these folks can walk. When I say these folks, I mean my folks. I'm not separating myself, but I'm going to say this. These young folks can live their best gay life, their best queer life because of women like Jewel. And, I've been saying that a lot because, when it comes to younger people, a lot of respect is not given to the elders that paved the way for them to do the things that they do today so freely and joyfully. And I think it's really important that elders like Jewel Thais Williams get the respect that's due, get their flowers, and get the credit. I see a lot of young people talking about, I'm the first this, I'm the first that. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? We have people who paved the way for folks to be able to walk down the street in a hood, holding hands, not change their clothes before they get off the bus and walk home so that they don't get bothered. Like, we have a lot of folks in our community who have passed on and who are still living that have done that work and put that work in it. And Jewel certainly is at the top of that list.
And the fact that the LAPD, which does not discriminate when it comes to Black folks, I don't know why people think that if you're Black, you're going to get your ass beat by LAPD. Let's just keep that real. So much hatred was directed towards that club, not just the Black gay community, but toward that club, with LAPD attempting to quote unquote raid it. And Jewel would stand firm. They even, I don't know, there was a fire. I don't know if they said it was arson or not, but the club burned down. And
part of the club. Yeah.
Part of the club burned down. People were coming to her like they do with the folks in Altadena. I'll buy you out. She stood firm, said, nope, I'm going to rebuild. It took her 2 years. She rebuilt that club.
Yeah, she did. And she held on to it till 2015. And obviously it passed hands to Mitch, who has done a great job, I think, of still making it accessible to the community and having those nights and stuff as reflective of the fact that her, celebration of life is going to be at the Catch on the 27th, right? Where else would it be, right?
Yeah.
And I was very happy that they took into consideration that her audience is a little bit older today, and we are coming out at 10 o'clock at night, and we're not staying out till 2 a.m. And if that celebration starts at 3 in the afternoon on a Sunday, I say yes, because I was fretting over if it's going to be a club night. I don't come out the house after a certain time now. And they recognize, because most of us are older now. I mean, I consider myself probably on the younger end. I'm in my mid-40s, but I know people like 14K and Mahogany and other folks who were basically there since day one. And, people are in their 60s and 70s. Like, people have grown up, right? And so I just thought it was I kind of chuckled a little bit when I saw it was Sunday from 3 to 8. I said, I know that's right.
Jasmine Canick, political strategist, political commentator, and journalist here in Los Angeles. Omo Ade Neff. What else am I? I'm going to come back to you, Omo Ade. Sima Lee, activist, organizer in Baltimore, Maryland. Mark Anthony Johnson, activist, healer, organizer here in Los Angeles. Omo Ade, DJ, househead, writer, entrepreneur, business owner of Ride On Bike Cooperative. Before y'all go, and whoever needs to, I know, Jasmine, I know you say you got to go. Whoever needs to hop off, y'all go ahead and hop off. But real quick, Jewel had, I believe, was it Village? I forgot the name of it, but it was a vegan, vegetarian restaurant.
Yes.
At some point. It was
Ricky
very
used to cook.
Ricky, exactly. Ricky cooked
I
that.
went to high school with Ricky. Yeah. I went to high school. You're talking about giving people jobs. Now, Ricky did know how to cook. Let's just say
he did.
He did. But yeah, unfortunately, the restaurant did not last long. But again, this is in the early to middle, maybe the mid 2000s.
It was not before its time.
Not a lot of Black vegetarian spots in Los Angeles.
Right.
At that time, right?
No, right. It was before its time, I think. I think if it were today, it would thrive. I think it would absolutely thrive when I think about all of the vegan, particularly Black vegan-owned spots, right? That we, food trucks, brick and mortar spots that we have. Yeah. But yeah, I used to eat there too. And I remember having lunch there with a friend named Skylar, who's also an actor. And I remember, one of the things I remember is they used to have this drink that was like blue that I really liked. It was like chloroform. It was something. And then they used to have a salad dressing that I thought was really, really good too. It was some of the first vegan food that I had ever eaten was there.
Okay. Man, let me, what time? This was not meant to, wanted to have a good time today, but not a long time.
Well, I just want to hop in and say, so I was able to play at the Catch in 95. So that's a big thing for me as a DJ. In 95, I was working for Rhino Records, and I put a compilation together for the history of house music. It was called The Roots of Club and House Music. And I told them where this needed to be when we launched it. This had to happen at the Catch, right? And so we went to the catch, and the record label and the people worked it out. Jules worked it out, and Billy Long, who was the DJ at the time, worked that out. And then he came to me. I was talking to him. He was like, "Yo, you put this in together?" I was like, "Yes, I put it together." He's like, "You put this together?" I was like, "Yeah, I put it together." It's like, "Okay, you can play." And so I got to play at the catch. And at the time, the DJ booth was way up high, and you had to climb a ladder. And I had to carry crates of records up the ladder to the DJ booth to play. And yeah, I'll never forget that experience. I was honored to be allowed to play in Billy Long's booth because that was his house. You don't play there. You know what I mean? It's like it's a privilege for you to have that opportunity. So I was privileged to have that opportunity to play at the catch.
DJs be having beef wars. Okay, all right.
It's his house. You don't come in and play in that house.
All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. That's not my wheelhouse. I'm gonna leave that part alone.
So many memories. I think everybody has just so many different memories of, and particularly I think for like Gen Xers and Boomers, just because we were like, that was like the funnest time, some of the funnest times in our life. We didn't know it back then, right? But looking back, right? Don't we just, I know I look back with fond memories like, oh, when life was, I thought life was hard back then, when life was so much easier. And, you know, it was just a different environment. And yeah, it's definitely, like I said, she's definitely leaving a legacy, something that folks are going to talk about for years to come. And, you know, I think there's a couple of documentaries that were done. And I know prior to her passing, she had gotten a lot of awards from different organizations and different folks. And I was really happy about that. So I don't always like when we talk about how great someone was after they are gone. I am so happy that Jewel got to receive and smell her flowers before she passed.
Absolutely. So there will be a public memorial celebration of life for Jewel Thais Williams here in Los Angeles at the Catch 1, 4062nd West Pico, just west of Crenshaw Boulevard. It will be on Sunday, July 27th, 2025 from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m. for all the arthritic folk.
Exactly.
And the ailments.
With the ailments and the don't want to be in heels for a long time, people. But, you know, they're going to have the bar open. They're going to be serving food. It's actually going to be more what Jewel would have. I mean, I don't know how well folks on here knew Jewel and Rue. This is definitely in line with how Jewel would want to be celebrated. And I did speak to Rue on Friday. I got a chance to speak with her wife, Jewel's wife, and she did tell me to tell folks that they should light a candle to help Miss Jewel transition, to get through her transitioning. So if folks care to do so, please light a candle.
And again, this wasn't meant to be a formal tribute, but I believe Jewel. I know Jewel's life is worthy of a critical discussion. I call the show Rootwork. I try to get to the root. I don't always make it, but at least I try. I wanted to at least make an effort to scratch the surface of a critical conversation on why Jewel Thais Williams was so important to Black Los Angeles. I know LA in general, but I'm talking about us, to our community, where Jewel loved it at us. And she didn't talk about it. She bead about it. Jewel was about that life. She did the work. And at least her example, if nobody else picks up the mantle just yet, the physical mantle, at least her example is there to guide people. An incredible life, an incredible servant of Black people. You talk about a servant of the people, that was and is Jewel Thais Williams. Now, before we get up out of here, for the folks who are listening, watching, Jasmine Canick, how can they keep up with you and the work that you do?
Well, you know, I took myself kind of off of X. So just follow me on Instagram or Facebook, because that's pretty much all I have the capacity to try to update. I'm Hello Jasmine on Instagram, and just Jasmine Canick on Facebook, Jasmine with a Y, so JASMYNE. Same thing for my website, iamjasmine.com. Thank you.
Omo Ade, for people who want to know more about the work that you do with the Ride On Bike Co-op and also the work that you do as a DJ, how can people keep up with you?
Yeah, so I'm at rideonbikeshop.com. On Instagram, we're Ride On Bike Co-op. And we have a great program that we're doing right now. We're putting 200 electric bikes in the hands of the folks in South LA. First 6 months is free, and we're making it very affordable for folks after that. And we're about to extend the program for another 2 years, right? That's on the bike shop thing. And as far as the DJ, I have a weekly at the Grandmasters Recorders, the Utopia Tribe on Instagram. And we play that music that you love to dance to, and it's for grown folks. So we go from 5 to 10. We just extended to 11, but you can come in early and leave early. You're 5 to 11 every Sunday.
Are you all, well, where are we at, July? Are you all doing anything outside in Lemert this summer?
We'll probably do a pop-up in Lemert in the alley, which is where we started this party. So we'll probably go back in the alley, like for Black August. I think it's warranted for us to go back there and share some joy. Z, what it is? How you doing?
Mark Anthony Clayton Johnson, how can folks keep up with you and what you are doing?
Check out Dignity Empower Now, dignityempowernow.org. Hit up Hilda Ecke if you want to get involved. The work to end sheriff abuse is alive and well and ongoing. And we have a really tremendous health and wellness team that is doing some incredible work. Shout out to the tradition of health and wellness that Jewel represents.
And Sima Lee, RBG.
Yes.
Folks want to keep up with the work that you are doing. How can they do that?
They can go to at SIMALEERBG, that's Simile RBG, across the various time-consuming social media apps. I feel you, Jasmine, it's too much. But I'm not as busy as you are. I remember following you for a very long time to find out about what's going on in LA and in the Black LGBT community. So it's kind of cool that you're up here. But also, please check up on Maroon Movement, which is the organization that I founded. It's going on 10 years now for Food Clothing Resistance Collective. Maroon Movement. We're a new African anarchist organization. We're Black, queer, and trans revolutionaries. We are also bigging up Baltimore Harm Reduction Coalition, where I do harm reduction work here in the city of Baltimore. Mosaic Cooperative, which is another leadership training group for Black trans men and trans mass folks. And we just fed a bunch of people and did acupuncture yesterday, trying to honor Mama Jewel's work and all of the elders who set that example. So yeah, look up any of those: Maroon Movement, Baltimore Harm Reduction Coalition, Mosaic Cooperative, or just Simile RBG.
Thank you so much, Jewel Thais Williams, for what you gave to us here in Los Angeles. Thank you all so much for coming on the show today to speak on the impact of Jewel Thais Williams. Thank you all for tuning in, including folks like you, Zen, who came in late. You have to go back to the beginning to get the fullness of discussion. Again, this is just scratching the surface. Jewel Thais Williams, hopefully you can Google and find out more information on who this wonderful person was. My name is Tandasizwe Shimaringa. Thank you all again so much for being on Rootwork today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we about to be out. Uh-oh, did Zen make a comment? There you go. How I came in. How you think I know? How you think I know? Come on now. Yes, you ain't got to explain. I just know you came in late. But no, you need to rewind. Lots of folks need to rewind. Appreciating everything and everyone so much. All right, y'all.
Thank you for having me.
Out of here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Like I said, I had to make an attempt
You did more than
you did
an
a great job.
You
This is
did a
fantastic.
great job, and I appreciate it. I followed everybody who I wasn't already following because I think Mark Anthony and I are already connected, but I followed everyone who gave out their Insta.
Awesome.
So
Word.
I might not
Bless
always
us,
get to
y'all.
the root, but I
And
try.
as for me, I'm about to raise my prices. I'm on a panel with Jasmine, so
I know,
I'm
right?
like, I'm feeling myself right now.
No. Wait, quick question though. Don't y'all sometimes spin at the place at the end of my block? At Juju's?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me know when y'all gonna be back there. That's just a walk for me.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we do a Wednesdays there, and yeah, we have a couple of events that happens there. I'll let you know.
Yeah, that is literally a 2-minute walk for me.
Oh, word. Yeah. For
You're
sure.
always welcome to come to Baltimore. Check out the house music here. You're always welcome.
Word.
I will. I'm going to Austin for the premiere of this. You guys probably heard about it, the new house music documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's premiering at the Austin, the Austin version of the Pan-African Film Festival, which I'm associated with.
Oh,
so I'm
word.
looking forward to going there for that at the end of the month. But yeah, I love me some house music. Y'all know Christy Lomax is my girl.
Yo, yes.
Yeah, Christy's my girl. She got me like back when she was doing KPFK, and I like really got into house music, and I haven't left it ever since. So I still am into it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christy's a legend.
Absolutely.
Somebody asked, is Baltimore music go-go? No, baby, that's DC. Baltimore club music and house music. And our Juju spot is the
not techno,
the
house.
Yes.
Oh, why you got now? See, why you okay? Now see, we have a joke that if it ain't a technical glitch, it ain't a Rootwork show. That wasn't me. That might be Ghetto Spectrum, or maybe it's your phone. That wasn't necessarily me. This time it wasn't me. This time it wasn't me. Anyway, the point being, for those who are watching, those who are going to watch later, check out Juju Social Club and Utopia Tribe on Instagram to get more of what Ade is talking about.
Word.
Yeah. And can I just add one more thing? We are doing a tribute to Jewel at South LA Pride on August 9th at Michelle and Barack Obama's LA house, aka Rancho Park on Obama and King. It's free all day. We're bringing out some great DJs as well. But there are a couple of legends that we have lost in the Black queer community. Jewel is the most recent to transition into an ancestor, but we also lost earlier this year Divine Gorgeous Gucci, and last year we lost Ivan Daniel. 3 people who were very well known in LA's Black queer scene. And so we're going to do a tribute to all of them at South Los Angeles Pride on August 9th. South LA Pride on Insta, southlapride.com online.
All right, y'all. Thank you again so much. Appreciate the heck out of y'all, and we'll figure out some way to bring y'all back at some other point in time.
Anytime.
All right. Anytime.
Everyone, you all take care. Stay safe.
Free the land.
You.
Hey, free some land.